I will give them a book to read. I give them Rich Dad Poor Dad. I say, read this and let me know what you think. And I learned that from a guy named Mark Hutton. You know, he gave this book, The 12 Pillars, out to people, and he would say, give me a book report on this. 99% of the people will not read that book and will not say anything back. And so I've always just, if you're going to willing to read, like, the book's going to change. 12 Pillars will change your life.
Sure.
Rich Dad Poor Dad will change your life. If you're not willing to take that step,
Right.
then I don't know if I need to spend any more time with you. But I would always meet you on the front end.
Right. That's great. That's a great tactic.
But you put the work.
Right.
Like, how bad do you want this relationship? Or were you trying, is your motive different?
Welcome to Beyond the Blueprint, powered by Contractors, Closers, and Connections, Orlando. Join me for in-depth interviews with some of the top commercial real estate and development executives in the industry. We uncover their success stories, their strategies, and their lessons learned along the way. Gain valuable insight whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. Beyond the Blueprint, we are sitting down on episode 2 with Adam Wonus. Episode 1, we got to learn a little bit about where he started, where he came from, and how he got to where he is today. So we're going to jump into some question and answers. The first question is going to be, what in your career path, whether it's personal or professional, would you say would be the most pivotal point that kind of shifted things around?
That's a really good question. And I hate to give you an answer that's vague, but like almost every day something is shifting right now. Like, we're in the growth phase. And so every day I show up, there's something that's happening, and like, you kind of have a choice to go left or right.
Right.
And you go one way or the other. Who knows what the right answer was? We can reflect on that in like 20 years, 30 years. But I would say the most pivotal part, like, for me, it even starts when I was pretty young. I just think being raised by a single mother, like watching somebody struggle like that, and then like do whatever it took to be successful, to make sure their kid has, you know, the opportunity to be successful, was just like, I can't be me without that whole phase of my life. I think from a business career, I talked about it a little bit, but like not getting the job I thought I was getting when I came down here to work with Fifth Third, and then finding something different, like understanding that it's not going to go the way you plan it. And then you just have to take action to try to will something to fruition. And it ended up being one of the best things in my life. I was the youngest BDO hired to Wells Fargo because I had the opportunity to work for Mercantile. Like, they gave me an opportunity at 21 years old to do something that at that point, it was mostly people in their 40s and 50s and 60s were doing. It wasn't a lending, you know, it was a tough lending environment. It was a tough lending product. Right. So they weren't letting too many kids do it. So I think those are kind of the one with my mom just helping me be who I am. I can't do that. I don't have that drive without watching the struggle. And the second is just that little pivotal moment when I thought something was going to be the way that it was going to be, and then it wasn't. Right. And then learning that you can succeed. And then that happens now. You asked me for one that I remember, but that happens every day now. Right. Like, I mean, there's something happening.
And you realize it all works out for good.
It works eventually. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't always, you know, I've listened to the story of Bernie Marcus. He started Home Depot. I was listening to his book this morning, and, you know, he thought, you know, getting fired from, he was working for a tool company called, like a retail store, basically like a Home Depot, but a smaller version, like an Ace Hardware. Yeah. And he got fired from that job. And the guy, Ken Langone, who wrote the book I Love Capitalism, which is my favorite book in the whole world, but Ken Langone was one of the founders of Home Depot as well, told him, you just got kicked in the ass with a golden shovel. Yeah. And he said, at the time, I didn't think that. Yeah. And now look what he's gone on to create in Home Depot.
Yeah. I think oftentimes when we're faced with situations like that, it's very easy for us to just kind of be like, oh crap, now what? My life's over, you know, kind of thing, without actually seeing that bigger picture, you know, and oftentimes it ends up working out. I mean, whether we like it or not, you know, we learn from it, we grow from it, we figure out what not to do. Even if, I mean, at the worst case, we figure out, okay, I can kind of step into something else or find a passion or things like that.
Yeah. I think I learned also, when it doesn't go your way, you just get up the next day, right, and you just work, and then somehow, you know, if you just pick, like, I think somebody taught me, when you fail, the faster, like my mom used to tell me this too. She's like, you get one day to be miserable and feel crappy for yourself, sorry for yourself, and then you get your ass up and you go again. Right. And I've had other people in my life say, the quicker that you can just accept what happened and go, and then it all starts. You keep the momentum going.
Right. They have one saying that I love is fall forward, right?
Yep.
Fail forward.
Yeah.
And so it's like, as long as you just keep, if you're going to fail, just keep going forward. Eventually it'll kind of build and grow from there.
I was laughing. I was at work every day, and like, as we got more and more things going on, I'm sitting at my desk the other day, and like 4 things happened in a row. And I just laugh. I was sitting there laughing to myself. I'm like, how does one person handle all of this?
Right.
And I'm just smiling. I remember I was just like, I'm just smiling. And I thought to myself, wow, this is a point in my life where this would have crushed me. One of these events would have crushed me 5 years ago.
Right.
But because you're just building up those callus, like to be able to keep going, you just smile and know, like, all right, I know what I'm doing. I'm trying hard. It's not all going to work.
And we'll figure it out. So what would the next question would be? What would you say, obviously, in your origin story and kind of where you got, relationships have been very pivotal for you. Yeah. What would you say is the biggest thing that you've gotten out of relationships? And then how do you go about building those relationships?
So I have so many relationships, but the couple that have been really pivotal in my development career. One, I've never been afraid to just reach out and ask. And locally here, Craig Osler has been like an amazing mentor to me. He's been awesome. When I was young, in my 20s, I remember thinking and watching, reading about him and all the things he was doing in Orlando. Thought, man, this guy's amazing. And I reached out to him and said, hey, can I come over and just meet you? And fortunately, he was like, yeah. And so I've just built a good relationship with him where he's willing to help me when things go bad. Sure. And I would just find people that have done what you want to do. Right. And it's not everybody's going to be, everybody's not going to be the same as Craig's been to me. But you just find the one that is going to be that way. And then recently I worked on a project. We were working on a hotel project, and I met Nancy Rossman has been another person, just a good business partner, good friend. Like, she works harder than anyone I've ever met. And so you need those people in your life. Like, she gets me motivated. If something's going wrong, she doesn't worry about it. Let's go. Keep moving. Moving. So find people that are successful in whatever you want to do, and you can learn from them. I mean, I'm blessed that these people allow me to be in their lives. Right. And I try to provide value to them in any way that I can. I'll never be able to provide, the ultimate value that they've given me. Sure. But at least I try. Right.
And I would say I've had the same experience with similar people. There was one, I won't name any names, but there was one guy that I saw in like OBJ, and they did this article about some of the stuff that he was doing, found his info online, reached out to him. Hey, like, can we just like meet? I just want to like pick your brain. Yeah. And most of the time what I've seen is that, people that are in a certain position, whether it's, monetary or business or financial or professional success, generally they will like at least meet once. Yep. Right. And then if they realize, okay, this was just like a one-hit wonder, this kid just wanted to have coffee and pick my brain and get something. I think in those relationships, like, we have to, when we're seeking out people like that, we have to try to give some value. And I think as long as those individuals that we're seeking out understand and see that we're like trying to give some value,
they know you don't know what you're doing, right? Because they were you whenever that was, right? And so they're not. I mean, I get it all. Like, sometimes now people reach out to me and say, hey, I want to meet with you. Like, I don't think I've ever said no, right? And so the good ones like won't say no, right? Now there is, like, you're busy. We're all busy now, so it's hard. But if you can see, like, I'll do one thing, I want to lose this thing I have, but I will give them a book to read. I give them Rich Dad Poor Dad. I say, read this and let me know what you think. And I learned that from a guy named Mark Hutton. He gave this book, The 12 Pillars, out to people, and he would say, give me a book report on this. 99% of the people will not read that book and will not say anything back. And so I've always just, if you're willing to read, like, the book's going to change. 12 Pillars will change your life. Sure. Rich Dad Poor Dad will change your life. If you're not willing to take that step, right, then I don't know if I need to spend any more time with you. But I would always meet you on the front end. Right.
That's great. That's a great tactic.
But you put the work. Right. Like, how bad do you want this relationship? Or were you is your motive different?
Right. So. Yeah, it's a good way to like wean out, the people who are really interested and the people that just want to kind of take and get stuff from you. So the next question would be, what's your definition of success?
It's a good question. And everybody asks me like, hey, what kind of money do you have? Like, I've never thought of it in terms of that. I explained in the first episode, I've wanted to own a hotel since I was 9 years old. I think I will never be happy until that happens. Like, I'll always be pushing. But I also kind of know my personality is like, when that happens, I'll be like, okay, what's next?
Right.
So I think success really comes down to how many people can we, like at Atrium right now, we have so many great like young people that are working their butts off who want to accomplish something great. And so I think having a successful organization, like impacting the community in a
Right.
positive way, and then having all of these people around you who didn't know they could accomplish what they end up accomplishing, I think that will be the most fun. But on an individual level, I want to own a hotel just because I want to do that since I was a kid. But globally, I think now when I'm getting ready to retire or be dead, like I just want to make sure that I helped as many people as possible. Like, so many people help me.
Right. Just making that lasting impact for them.
Yeah, and change, like there's, conversations, like I'll sit we have like a bullpen area at our office, and I'll sit out there and I'm having a conversation with one young guy today, and he's like, I was telling him, I was like, I sit here in the middle because I just want to hear what's happening, and I want to be able to help you if I hear something that I can maybe give you a piece of advice, and you take it, and it could, like, one nugget could change your life. All of us probably have the things that we heard that we're like, we say to this day, we heard from somebody random, and keep that with us. And so,
I think collectively, like having that unity is like very beneficial, especially when you're growing an organization, because I think everyone, if you have enough people and you have enough knowledgeable people, whether it's whatever profession you're in, all in the same room, like, this whole work from home thing, like I think it's beneficial to some people, but I think as you're growing an organization, it kind of takes away that element of unifying and being able to toss out ideas. You never know. I mean, you can be sitting in a group of people and someone may say something that is completely life-changing to the other person.
We've had this conversation again. Like, my office really doesn't like me right now. Some people, because I'm like, hey, we need to be here. We need to be here.
Yeah.
Like, it's not optional, because and the reason I believe so strongly is like my boss at my first job was Tony Zera, and he spoke on speakerphone. And back in the day, it was like those big phones, and so the speaker was loud, so you could hear it all over the office.
Right.
And I learned how to do, like, I'll still say the same words he says, but I was just listening to what people were saying to him, how he responded. And I believe that I'm better at my profession having spent 5 years listening to that man on speakerphone.
Right.
And so I'll walk around the office and I'm talking on speakerphone, and like at today's day, if you're like, you're being annoying, I'm like, I'm just doing it for the person that hears something and says, oh, that's how I would handle that situation. Because it changed my life. And you can't do that. If you're at home, you can't really do that because you're just sitting by yourself.
Right. So I guess the second part to the success question is, what has been your biggest either personal misconception of success, like what you thought it would look like and what it really is, and then also maybe that outside viewpoint of what people may think is success and it's really not?
I would say that when I was a kid and I thought about what success was, I would say that if you picture that today, I would say I was successful in that regard. Like, if I dreamed about it when I was a kid, but I think the misconception is like, it doesn't matter necessarily. It's the journey. Like, it's no matter what you accomplish. Like, we always talk about our office. Like, we don't, Mike and I, my business partner, we don't celebrate success very much. Like, because we're always looking to the next thing.
Right.
Like, okay, that was great. We did that. And like, we do it, like, I'll give you an example. When we had 200 properties, we'd be like, when we get to 500 properties, it's going to be awesome.
Right.
We would blow by 500 and never even think about it, because we were already talking about when we got to 1,000, and you get to 1,000, you don't think about it. You're like, okay, we got to get to 2,500,
right.
And so that, my misconception is that I thought there would be this party every time that you accomplish something, and there's really not, because you're working so hard towards even more.
Right. It's like this ever evolving thing that just continues to grow.
Keeps going.
The goalpost keeps getting moved further and further.
And that's what people ask me all the time. Like, when are you gonna stop? When is it gonna be enough? And I don't want it to ever be enough. Like, that's not what I'm looking for. I understand that one of the biggest things growing up is you realize not everybody thinks like you.
Right.
When you're young, you're like, man, doesn't everybody want to have this? Like, no, some people want to work 9 to 5, want to go home.
Right.
Like to me, that wouldn't feel good, but that's just how I'm made up.
Right.
I don't want to stop ever. I just want to keep moving. And
So as you build Atrium and as you build these relationships, whether it's your investors or your development partners or anything like that, what are some of the things that you look for, whether it's an employee or a business partner, like key qualities and characteristics in those people?
It's just I need you to just be relentless, and you need to be a good human being.
Yeah.
And those are the two things. Like I always say, like we have our core values at Atrium, and I think you need to have all of those. But we can teach those. If you're a good human and you work your ass off, like you got a place with us. Like I just want to be around, like we only have so much time on the earth. I just want to be around people who are pushing me.
Right.
We have, and I get really revved up when we get like, Emma just joined us.
Yeah.
And so like, she's got an energy to want to work. And so that like inspires you to do more. We've got another young guy, Joshua out of Rollins, and the kid's 20. He's going to kill me, but he's 23 or 24. But he pushes me harder than anyone's ever pushed me in my life. Like text me this morning. He's like, what are you going to do to be great today? And, I'm like, man, this kid is got it. One of the cool things, I'll just tell this is for fun, but he challenged Mike and I, my business partner, like, what are you going to do if this was a year ago, last year? He's like, what are you going to do to make this company better? And we're like, oh, given like our answer, he's like, no, he's like, you got to do something every day to make this company better, and the consistency of it. And so my business partner, Mike, and him,
that's challenging.
He did 100, and this is, again, it's not business, it's the mindset.
Sure.
But they did 150 push-ups every day. Joshua did it for 365 straight days. Mike ended up hurting his collarbone and missed out, but Mike was at like, I think 100 and some days straight. And so it transpired in our company. We have a thing called No Excuses. It's a group thread, and everybody picks one thing to do every 30 days. They have to do it consistently. It's about the consistency. And so when they do it, they get the shirt. Like it's a big deal. We do it on our Friday team meetings, but that kind of stuff, like that came from a 23-year-old, and now we use that for my whole life.
Right.
And so just cool stuff like that happens.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bryce Knuth of Insurance Office of America. As a contractor or real estate owner in Florida, you've likely experienced the impact of rising insurance premiums year after year. With the challenging insurance marketplace, having a specialist who focuses on your industry is critical now more than ever before. If you'd like a second set of eyes on your current insurance program or don't have a relationship with your current broker, please contact Bryce Knuth at 407-697-6944 via call or text, or email bryce.knuth@ioausa.com. Don't let rising insurance costs catch you off guard. Reach out to Bryce today. What would you say the culture is like at Atrium?
One of the things I'm most proud of is that we've been voted best places to work 5 years in a row. And I'm happy about that because everybody votes on it. It's not like we can do it. You've got to fill out the survey. So culturally, I think we have a really great group of people. Like we started with 3 people, and so now we're at over 100. And it's like, it just keeps evolving. Like I tell everybody, every 6 months, we're a totally different company because you've got all these new personalities. But I think that, this is my belief, but I think that the people that are there want to accomplish something great, and they want to be around people that want to do the same. So we have a really good big focus on how do you provide great customer service? How do you become a better person every day? One of our core values is start with you, and you can't be good for Atrium or yourself unless you're healthy, you're reading. We have nonstop. We have a library in our office for books, like the books that we really think have impacted or changed our life in some way. We do Audible for people if they want to listen to in the car, but the goal is to get better every single day. And you can, I always tell people, like, my goal is to make you better. I pray you don't want to leave me someday, but I want you to leave here, if you do, saying, man, that place made me better.
Sure.
And again, my job and Mike's job is to like create an environment where people don't want to leave.
Right.
But ultimately, like, that was hard for me in the beginning. Is like, it felt like, don't leave me. We're going, we're doing something amazing. And inevitably some people would leave. But I'm happy to see, like, we have a guy, Israel, who started a company. Him and his wife started Fat Ash Bakes, which is a local company here. And Israel came here from New Jersey. just needed to get started doing something. And now they've created one of the coolest cookie companies and definitely in Orlando, but really going to be across the country.
That's awesome.
So like watching his success, I'm sure he would say I picked up a couple things at Atrium, to foster the success. And now it's all they're on a whole nother planet going for the moon, but it's just fun to watch.
Right. Well, I think, building any type of organization, whether it's a company or just an organization in general, building something that people can take away if they do, right? So I think we can't just expect people just to stay there forever. No. But I think if the genuineness is like you want people to grow, you want them to get better, if like that's based of your culture, eventually, right, the long-term goal is like maybe if they've grown outside of us, then we did a hell of a job.
Yeah, no,
right?
It's good. And like I said, in the beginning, it was very tough for me, because I'm having people over to my house, right. Like, you're a family. When you have 5 people, you're tight. As you get to 100, you lose a little bit of that because you can't physically be in one place at all times. But our goal, and I know many companies go through this, is like, how do we keep it, as a group of people that are all working towards something and want to grow? And I think we've done a good job. And like when we get to 250 people, it'll, even 150 to 200 to 250, it'll be a totally different animal. And I'm learning, like I've never done this before. So like every day I just learn something new. And I don't know, like I've got a million people that are like really helping me that I can call. Right. But until you've gone through something, you don't know what that looks like. So you just try to do your best every day.
Right. So last question before we jump into like a rapid fire, what would you say and how would you deal with setbacks and failures and then, maintaining a positive mentality and attitude through those?
Yeah, I would say the biggest one that I've ever, I worked really hard in the beginning and I didn't really have too many like big failures. I would say on a daily basis, you're failing. Sure. But recently, I think like about 3 years ago now or 2 years ago, we were trying to get the hotel approved in Winter Park. And I learned that you can work it unbelievably hard. You can give it everything you got and you'll still fail. Right. And at the time, it was one of those things where I thought, man, this is brutal. But I've learned so much through that process. I've learned how people are. I met so many great people. I've learned the good, the bad. And through that failure, I think it's made me better as a developer, as just a person, and learning that like, you can do everything right. In my mind, I'm sure somebody outside would say you didn't, but in my mind, we gave it everything we had. Like we left nothing on the table, and it didn't work out. And I've also learned that doesn't mean that it ends. Like
it doesn't mean that that's failure, right? It's like what's our definition of failure, right? Because you got something positive out of it. So does that really mean you really fail?
And I told my kids this morning, like literally we were sitting at the table and they're 6 and 7. I've got 2 awesome boys, Reagan and Houston. And, I said, when do you fail? And they were like looking at me like, they're like, what are you talking about again? Yeah. And I'm like, when you quit. You only fail when you quit. So you can't lose unless you quit. And that's something I want to drive into their heads, from
that's
a
awesome.
young
That's
age.
A good way to look at it.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Also I would say too, there's one other piece that's even more important than anything. I would say when you're young, like choosing who your spouse is probably it is the biggest decision that you'll ever make in your life. Because when I was going through that hotel process, like again, we don't have all, we're just working, we're trying to make it, it's not like we have all this money we can just lose. Right. And I remember my wife, she said to me, when I wanted to do this, I knew it was like I was told from the very beginning, you have a 5% chance of making this happen. And I said, I still want to do it. Like it's my dream. Like, let's go. And I remember Monica looked at me and she's like, hey, if you lose it, she's like, we'll get it back. Just keep going. And so to have awesome. Those kind of people in your life that are cheering you on, is key, because I know friends whose, spouse says, don't lose it.
Yeah.
And like,
it's a ton of pressure.
How are you supposed to win if you're afraid of losing?
Right.
So,
yeah, that's awesome. All right. So we're going to get into rapid fire.
Yep.
What's something that people don't know about you?
Oh,
or
man.
Most people, not.
So one thing that people know, I love Ohio State, and like I grew up brainwashed as a kid. So I love Ohio State football, like more than anything in the world. Like I always joke with my wife, I'm like, it's Ohio State, her, and then my kids. Yeah. I remember some order of that, but Ohio State's probably right up there. So I love that. I love the camaraderie of like team sports, and like the history of stuff. Just growing up in Columbus, like it's you're brainwashed to it. But I'd say that's probably the thing that I love like most. And some people know that about me. I'm trying to think of something. I'm pretty open.
That works.
I'm
Ohio
pretty
State
open.
works.
Like I don't, but yeah.
When are you the most productive?
To be honest, I'm most at night, and I used to, when I was younger, I would work till 2 or 3 in the morning. And one of the ladies in my office, Clary, she's in at 7 a.m. And so I would come strolling in at 9 o'clock, 8:45, maybe 9:15, but I'd been up till 3 a.m.
Right.
cranking away. And she'd be like, good afternoon.
Yeah.
And now that I have kids and I'm old, I get up earlier now. I'm up around 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I'm there at the office. I try to leave at 7. And then I go spend an hour or so with the kids at night, and then I'll go back from 9 to 12. But I'm getting old, and I'm pretty much around 12 o'clock. Like my brain is fried. But I'm getting better as I get older about not wasting time. You just don't have, I think my kids taught me that. Like I think about my wife and I used to think we were busy before we had kids, but we were just watching like episodes of like it's Real Housewives or something. Like I haven't seen that show in years. I haven't seen many shows in years because it's like it's a system. And I like it better. And when you're competing with yourself, like you start saying, okay, how can I get like 15 minutes more of productivity today? Because you realize how much of an impact that can have.
Yeah. What's something new happening in your life right now?
I don't want to leave anything out. Just on a good note, like every day something new pops up where it's like, oh man, that's a cool opportunity. I would say right now we have a lot of great development projects going on. We're building a 293 unit apartment building right now. We've got some really great industrial projects. We're doing a lot of infill projects. I started my career in the Milk District in development. So we moved our corporate office there a year ago. And then next door, we're building an apartment building called the Milk Stacks. And Milk Stacks pays homage to T.G. Lee. So when you see it, it's got the milk silos along the side. So just a lot of, one of the things I learned from Craig is just to be thoughtful in what you're trying to develop. And with these infill projects, I think we have an opportunity to make some, like, I don't know any buildings in Orlando that have like milk stacks on them or anything like that. So I'm a bit like, it could look really cool or it could look stupid. I don't know yet. Like, I'm excited to see like how it, when it looks in a rendering, I'm like, that looks awesome. Yeah. But when you build something, as totally different. It's come out different. So I'm a little like, it's a little daring for me. I'm pretty conservative, like bank background. Like I don't do too much craziness, but I'm really proud of that project. I mean, I can't wait, and I hope it's a success because I want to do more in different neighborhoods. Sure.
Who's your inspiration?
So the really funny one that most people like don't know is like Tupac is my favorite person of all time. Yeah, like so I grew up like just hearing his music when I was a kid. Like he was raised by a single mother. Like that was my guy.
That's interesting.
So that was my big inspiration. I have so many great business people that I look up to. Like if you ask me, we were at dinner and Mike, my partner, always asks people, who's the 5 people that you'd have at your table if you could have dinner? My number 1 is Ken Langone. He wrote the book, I Love Capitalism. And that guy told the exact stories to a degree of how he did what he did. And I just appreciate that because I think you get a lot of people who like give you a high level, I did X, Y, and Z. And that doesn't really help anyone. Right. And so I love that guy. I love what he did from Home Depot. If you ever listen to him, he talks about how many millionaires that Home Depot has created who started pushing carts in a parking lot. And so when you can build an organization like that, and then you have somebody who's that successful, and that's the piece that they talk about the most, like, it's a genuine, genuine thing. So I'd say he's probably my ultimate who I want to meet today.
Tupac. Yeah. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah. I know every Tupac song. Like, and well.
Yeah. If you had to describe yourself in 5 words, what would they be?
Oof, God, that's a tough one. I would say like I care. I actually care. I care about, our developments. I care about people on our team. I would say motivated. Like I just want to succeed. Some motivation, like I'm completely motivated. 5 is a lot. I would say empathetic too. Like I'm learning that like in development, you realize that people, feel differently about what you're doing. And so like understanding that everyone's background is different, everyone has different experiences. Like one of the things I learned from Tupac is like everyone's past makes your future.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't know what that person's going through to why they feel the way they did. You look at it from like a development standpoint, you think, oh my God, we're going to build this beautiful new building. And the people are like, it's terrible. And you're like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. But maybe that person went through something in their life where development came and took away something they loved.
Right.
And so you got like just being empathetic has been probably the biggest lesson that I've learned. I don't know. I don't want to use like a dumb one like love, but like I do think I'm like I love living. Like I love my kids. Like I love my wife. Like I love our company. Like I just say like right now is one of those times in life where there's so many bad things happening, but there's just so many good things happening too that it's worth. It just makes every day exciting to wake up and go to work. Finally, I would say I don't know. I'll describe myself. I don't know, energized. I would just say right now, like there's just a lot going on.
That's a good one.
So it's fun. And the world's like upside down right now from an economic standpoint.
Sure.
I just tell all the people in my office, I'm like, hey guys, keep your head down. And I promise you the people that are complaining or worried or nervous, like it's not going to do anything.
Right.
Like, if we just keep grinding it out when we lift our heads up in 12, 24 months, whatever it takes, I'm sure we'll accomplish a lot of cool stuff.
Last question. If you had to ask or tell God one thing, what would it be?
Oh, I just say I run around. You're gonna make me cry now. But I run around like my neighborhood in like Lake Eola, and like I did it yesterday. Sometimes from my office, I'll just run around Lake Eola before I go home, and I just thank you. Like I thank my grandmother. My best friend died when I was 18. I thank him, and then my wife's grandmother, Abby, died, and so I say thank you to those, to God. My grandmother as well. Like I just say thank you all the time. Like thank you. Don't want to again, don't want to mess it up. Like just want to keep moving and keep going. So
yeah. Well, Adam, it has been a pleasure. I appreciate you sitting down here. I know that there's been a ton of experience and you got a long way to go still.
Yeah.
Right.
Just starting.
It seems like you got a lot of aspirations, and I'm excited to see what, the next 5, 10, 15 years holds for Atrium, and you've got a great track record and it just keeps going from there.
And thank you for having me. And like I said, now knowing you and all the stuff you're doing, it's pretty awesome to watch. And, I think just the organizations that you're getting involved with and like what you're doing, it's like fun for me to see.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Just trying to surround myself with good people,
Yeah, that's it.
that's the purpose. Well, it has been a pleasure. Beyond the Blueprint, we have had 2 conversations with Adam Wonus and Atrium Management. We will see you next time.